And just to make sure you understand, we must again state the same thing that we've stated so many times, that the execution of this change to make People's Trust News come into existence uh, should never need to go beyond that which can be accomplished inside the law. In other words, if it isn't legal, don't do it. We have plenty of uh, avenues inside the law to get this thing to happen. So the basic concept behind that is obviously we don't want a civil war. We don't want a police activity because these aren't the people. See, you're taking on the people that have nothing to do with what your problem is. They're only doing their job, which is trying to keep order and peace, which is the government's job. So any activity outside the law must come from dominion and not from that which we have suggested. The entire concept of describing the process of change in this book is to stop the civil war planned by the overchargers. What did they say? See, you don't you don't get to say often enough. They want a civil war. They want to reduce the population. They want to sell guns to both sides. They want to sell military equipment to both sides. They want us to fight each other. Reduce the what they call overeaters, people that aren't doing anything, that aren't producing anything that they can use, not giving them enough money. They're sick. They're very, very, very sick. So any change recommended here must and can be done legally with no violence other than the legal violence of behind the fence and that kind of thing, which is legal. To take them to court and find them guilty of a crime, they can go behind the fence. That is violence, but it's legal violence. It's our society's way of maintaining control. So if violence is occurring, then someone is using this work for their own negative purposes. Over and over again, we have said that the overcharges and it work together to pervert everything to their gain. Their gain is much more money for the small amount of satisfaction that it'll give them, because overchargers can't ever be satisfied. What does satisfied mean? I've had enough misery and emotion for this week. Never happened. They're going to want misery and emotion, negative happenings, because that's what they feed on. Uh, they basically they say a great deal of pain is coming from us, the masses, so that we can feed it. Uh, if you don't understand that, and there are some people that don't understand that, if you don't understand that, this is the concept. Go to a huge music festival, Woodstock. What do you get? What do you get out of it? What do you get? You're standing there in the rain. You're watching these idiot people up on the stage making verbal noise, and the crowd around you is swaying back and forth and chanting and so on and so forth. What's going on there? You're being fed emotion. You're being fed emotion. Do you understand what we're saying? Your sitcoms, you're being fed emotion. Your humor, you're being fed emotion. The canned laughter, it's something that you need. It's something that you like. It, whatever it is, or they are, love the emotion more, and it has to be evil, pain, agony, suffering kind of emotion. That's what they feed on. So if you see right away that if that kind of gain is what you're seeing, anyone's work coming from our books, then they are working for the wrong side. So what did they say? Anything that comes from our books that isn't legal, anything that comes from our books that all of a sudden starts misery, stop them. They're not using the books in the method determined that we need to do. The laws can be changed. Powers can tumble inside the law. You don't believe that? Have you been taught that you can't fight City Hall? Listen, 20% of you join to get this accomplished. It will be. There is no power greater here on earth. There's no power greater than 20% saying it's got to be. And it's only 20%. Imagine if it was 50%. So, okay, now you understand they're trying to make sure that you don't misuse this book. In other words, somebody comes along and says, hey, you got to do this and kill these people and do this and start a civil war because that person is not for us, from us, on our side. Stop them. They're using the information in the books to make them look good. They're the wrong side. We can do it inside the law. We can do it peacefully. We can do it legally. There's, maybe enough said. Anything other than that is from the other side. Plain and simple. I don't care how pretty they are. I don't care how they smile. I don't care how attractive you are to them. It doesn't make any difference. It's the action. The action is if they're using it to do anything but legal motions moving forward, then they're using it the wrong way. Plain and simple. So now we move to a problem that might not be seen so clearly. It'll affect the safety of our movement into the People's Trust government system. Now we move to a problem that might not be seen so clearly. Oh, they're going to move into a problem that you're not going to see very clearly. That'll affect the safety of our movement into the People's Trust government system. You notice they didn't say People's Trust News. They said People's Trust Government, which is what's going to happen. We're going to talk about the addicted overcharges. As a result, as research grows, the scientific community is beginning to understand that the people who are addicted to drugs are in a condition that's very, very hard to break, and is also very, very hard to keep the addiction from coming back if you manage to break it. It used to be drug addiction, and drug addiction was the bottom of the social group that were addicted. It used to be drug addictions, and the bottom of the social group were the ones that were addicted. That being the case, very little was done to help those who had the problem. Why? Because they're the bottom of the social group, and we don't care. Let's be blunt. One of the things that they do is they tell it like it is. You can't tell it like it is because it isn't socially acceptable. They don't care. What are you going to do? How are you going to find them? They don't care. So it isn't socially acceptable. If they call, they don't call blacks niggers because that's a slant that is socially not acceptable. But it also is slamming a group. They're black people. They happen to have a skin color that's black. It's like, I'll tell you how they see it. Blue eyes, brown eyes. They actually did a test in a school somewhere, and I don't have all the details, but I remember they started passing out information just subtly without anybody realizing that they were doing an experiment, and they made it seem that the blue-eyed people were better people than the black-eyed people. Brown-eyed people were low-level, low social, retarded, not very bright, blah, blah, blah. Before long, it happened. Before long, the blue-eyed people were looking down on the brown-eyed people and dissing them. So, it's anybody who knows anything at all knows that brown eyes or blue eyes, it makes no difference to any of the things they're talking about. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with physical ability. It has nothing to do with the quality of the person in any way, shape, or manner. But you have people out there that actually believe, tell, blonde, blue-eyed is the way it should be, and everybody else is secondary. And it's when you see that, you see right away that they're bullshit. That they just don't get it. They're lying. If they believe it, they're wrong. The blue-eyed people aren't any better than the brown-eyed people. You go into the school and you do brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people, and exactly the same thing happens in reverse. So you begin to see that advertising works, and advertising is what they use in the form that they use it, and it works. And what they're telling the people in that school, they start to believe. Uh, in the one school, the blue-eyed people are wonderful, great people, and in the other school, the brown-eyed people are wonderful, great people. Come on, come on. It's what you see. So now they begin to look at it and say, okay, the drug addicts are poor people, and we don't care. So very little was done to help them, the people who have the problem. Now we've begun to see a new and very broad spectrum of the social group who are becoming addicted to prescription drugs. The prescription drug crisis in 2018 is, middle of the year, is horrible. There are people actually dying. There are people that are taking the drug by the ton, and they're not bottom of the social ladder. They're some of the elite groups. That being the case, addiction is now being investigated in a more rigorous manner. Of course, we have high social people that are taking the drug. We got to do something. So they say, what causes some to become addicted and others not under the same conditions? Why can some people break the addiction and others are totally unable to do so? The answer to those questions are becoming critical because there are people dying out there and others whose lives are being ruined by the addiction. And the new group who are doing just that are high people in our social strata. When that happens, of course, something has to be done. you know. And I said, they're going to tell you flat out. They won't do a damn thing if it's the gutter people. They'll do anything they can if it's the top social people. The next thing that is happening is the examination of the area of the brain that is being affected when those addictions become active. What are they doing? They're trying to find out where in the brain the problem, what part of the brain is being activated. As that information becomes available, we're finding out that there are other things that seem to fall into the addiction category that we hadn't really thought about calling them an addiction before. What did they say? They said we started doing checks on the brain to see where the addiction influenced the brain. The electrical thing on top of your head that checks to see what area of the brain is functioning. And they found some areas of the brain that were being functioned by this drug, and they said, "Aha, okay, now we know where to look." And they started looking there, and all of a sudden they found out something that they didn't expect at all. Uh, what they said is that there were other things falling into the category that we hadn't determined were addictions before. One of those things was computer games. Now, anybody who's a parent who has a child who gets hooked on those computer games will say, "I knew it. I knew it all along. They're addicted to the game. And it's true." Guess what? Another one was shopping. Shopping. That's for you women. The pleasure gained from those two things uh, affects the brain activity in exactly the same place. It is easy to see that prescription drugs might activate that part of the brain, but computer games, shopping, to go on, then there's another thing found to be active in that part of the brain. It was the gaining of money, the thought of power that money would bring. That understanding would not come to full realization yet, but it will. Now, what did they say? They said, you don't realize that getting money, gaining money, and the power that money brings affects that area of the brain that relates to addiction. And what they're saying is the process of gaining money is addictive. Obviously, the more money that has been acquired, the more addictive the game of gaining money becomes. That being the case, the realization of just what it means is also something that scientists are slowly becoming aware of. The realization may never be reported, however, because it is viewed as a negative thing. Those who are acquiring money, who are the overchargers, do not want any negative information pointing their way and have the resources to stop that information from becoming public. We do not have the People's Trust News yet, so that information may be buried. What are they saying? Oh, by the way, the gaining of the money that the overcharges are doing is addictive. They're addicted to it. That means that it could ruin their life. It could change the way they think. It could, all the things that addictions bring to your, all the negative things that your addiction brings to a person's life, the overcharges have that. So that being the case, we'll begin to start calling the overchargers the addicted overchargers, because that's exactly what they are. They are addicted to gathering money. As things stand right now, the gathering of money by many means is not illegal right now. When people begin to realize just how destructive to people's lives and how immoral the process of gathering massive amounts of money has become, they will demand that something be instituted to reduce the damage of, well, basically, what are they going to do? They're going to stop overcharging, because it's a horrendously damaging thing to, not just in the United States, but worldwide. It's horrible. You have people that are living on 25 cents a day in some countries, and the only reason is the overcharger's addiction. The only reason that they're that way. Take that away, and all of a sudden you have worldwide enough money. Take that. When you get into the economic part of the book 4, and you realize that what they're saying is that we have enough resources and we have enough people that we can live comfortably, everybody in the world. Did you get that from them? We have enough, not a problem. We have enough things that we can do, enough production, we have enough gross national product, we have enough people working right now, just the way it is, for the entire population of the world to be okay. What's the problem? Because it certainly isn't. They want you to watch the 2 videos on money. They want you to watch those 2 videos that we recommended. Watch them again. Get solidly in your mind that those people that are doing this, that are less than a 0.5%, maybe even less than 0.1%, those people are insane and they're addicted. And the whole object of their whole life is to make money. The whole world has enough resources and money to live quite well, but the 0.05% have all the money. Over half the people on the earth are starving, have no clean water, are sick most of the time, and fear for their lives. And it is only because what does it take? They laid it out for you there. People are starving. There's not enough food? Sure there is. There's plenty of food. Can we have enough food to have those people not starve? Yes, we do. Just they can't afford it. They have no clean water. You mean to tell me that we can't give everybody in the world clean water? Yes, we can. But you see, it costs money. People are mostly sick. There are people out there that are sick all the time. Why? Because they're drinking dirty water. They have no food. They fear for their lives. They have, the part of the overchargers. See, you don't see the connection. They say all the time, spider web. You don't see the connection. The overchargers have found out if they're selling guns, they make good money. What does that mean? That means that the people have to fear for their life just because the overchargers are sick, insane, and want more money. That's all. That's the only reason. It isn't because like the blue-eyed people want to kill the brown-eyed people. And that's what you're seeing all the time. I mean, you go to the country, if you have what they recommend is the language that they use for commerce, and so everybody has to learn 2 languages in their country. If you go to a country that's evil, rotten people, the ones that we're going to kill just because they're evil, rotten. And you go talk to the farmers or the people that live there in a language that you both can understand, you're going to find out right away they're the same people. They're just like you. It isn't them, it's the leaders. Well, what are the leaders doing? They're making money. do, you, do you see what we're saying? We have suggested a means of getting the problem solved in a very effective manner and have pushed it very, very hard in book 1 through 5. When the time comes that all of us realize just how bad the process is for us, we'll change the system and stop the sickness. Perhaps scientists will find a cure for the addiction problem before then. We certainly hope that they do, but the cue here is we can stop the addiction. 400,000 a year, anybody in worldwide, but in the United States for sure, because that's the law. And we're a lot of people, and we buy a lot of stuff, so when you add the law to the country, all of a sudden there's a tremendous amount of money that isn't being stolen. If worse comes to worse, we have to deal with the addicted overcharges in a stronger manner than the legal system. We are recommending something much stronger. We recommend the creation of a national court composed of our very best people. I mean, they say here the 3-man judge team, 12-member jury, but no, that's not a lock. The national court can be formed or created by anybody for that specific reason of dealing legally with the addicted overchargers, and the national court will be only for the handling of the addicted overcharger that have tremendous amount of wealth and power. These addicted overchargers will have to submit to both the word of the new law and, more importantly, the intent. So if they're trying to figure out a way around the 400,000 law, that court is there to bring them down. They're brought down to an income of $400,000 a year. The use of their power or money at that point, their use of their money or power at that point of the above reduction must be within the legal system from then on. If not, then there's and here's the key to the, okay, do you understand national court? What is that? To deal with a tremendously wealthy addicted overcharges in a national court, legal manner, 12-man jury only, no judges making the decision, no judges stopping the information. The court will be designed around the recommended court system that we deal with in the legal system. No lawyers, no fancy talk, no nothing, just a written facts. And how are you going to get around the written fact that you're stealing horrendous amounts of money? You can't. You will be charged with it, and they say you have to bring your income down to 400,000 a year, and you have to give everything else to the government. You have to pay the sales tax, but then everybody has to pay that. And all of a sudden everything moves along the way it should, but let's just say it doesn't. We have the national court. And one of the things the national court is going to deal with, and one of the things that when you look at it, it's obvious as can be. And what is that? Retribution. Retribution. They're going to say, we're going to get you. You think you're going to pull that on us? We're going to get you. No, it isn't. The fear they have is the French Revolution, where they cut off the heads of the people that had caused the problems. Off with your head. What does that mean? Guillotine, chop, no head. That's not within the laws that we have in this country today. And they just got through saying you can do this within the law. Okay, so what are they saying? They're saying we have to have a national court. The national court is going to judge those people that do not cooperate with the law. Okay, and one of the things that they're concerned about is retribution of any kind. If there is an attempt at retribution because of the new laws, the full force of our country's legal system will be used to gain compliance. There are two conditions we do not want to have to deal with, but that's what must be done must be done. There are two conditions that they're going to have to deal with. Okay, and retribution is what they're going to try to stop. The first condition is the one or that one or a group of addicted overchargers resist the effort to bring them under control. If they are charged, but they did not, now they've done something. We're not talking about the people that go to 400,000 and give the rest to the government. They're fine. You understand? They're not blue eyes. They're not brown eyes. They're fine. They're energetic people, and they want to make money. Go ahead, make money, but don't steal it. Just make it. If they're charged because they are doing something against the law, but they do not appear in court and resist either here or in the country or another place in the world, we must take strong new action. What did they say? They said, okay, we have an addicted overcharger and he's not following the law. That's what the new national court's for. And this person is going to be charged and said, you have to appear in court. Well, he's in England. You can't force him to come out of England and come into the world court of our country. You can't force him to, I'm saying. Now, and what are they saying then? They said, you say, we're all leaving this country and we're going to hide in other countries. Well, number one, the second and they'll go over this, I'm going to tell you ahead of time. Number one, you will not be able to make money in this country. Every penny that you make when you're charged and do not appear will be taken away from you. And any profit, anything that resembles a gain that you get, your children get, your wife gets, somebody that you know gets, they'll be pulled. The government will pull the profits, pull the money. You will not make another penny in this country if you're charged and you do not appear. Now, let's just say you're Rothschild and you're in England and you're sitting there laughing and saying, go ahead, do whatever you want. You can't do anything in our country. You're an addicted overcharger and you cannot make any money in our country. So all the businesses and the banking and everything that you do, banking mainly, is done. You cannot use it in this country. And that's going to be a major, major punishment, if you will, because they stop making money and they're addicted to that. You have to understand those people have tremendously unbelievable power, and you also understand that the specific addicted overcharger may not be in our country or even live in our country at all, but broke the letter of the law or intent in this country, and he or she must be brought to justice. So that's the key that they're using. I don't care if you're in the country or you're out of the country, you broke the law and you did not come into court. Now you remember that the laws have been changed at this point in time, so it's legal to say we have a world court, we have a national court, if you will, our nation, national court, and we have 12 people that have heard the facts, and those 12 people have said that they're guilty. Now they have to appear to be charged, and they don't, and they're not in this country. But they say that being the case, that they broke the law in this country, then they have to be brought to justice. That being now broke the law, the new law, one of the things they say all the time is if it wasn't illegal to do, you can't go back and charge a person with a new law. In other words, you can't go back. If it's legal to beat a person on the street today, if it were legal, you can't pass a law saying you can't beat a person on the street and then go back to that person and get them because it wasn't against the law back then. You understand? You understand how it works? So, and they say that all the time. You've got to go from now when the new law is enacted or is in effect, we'll have to say. So, that being the case, and that person or those people have been able, with their massive amount of money and power, to get around the authority of the national court in some manner, we'll have to place a bounty on them then. So you see, step one, take the money that you make in this country and lock it. You do not make any money in this country. You cannot, not that you can't have the business going. In other words, you can. There are some people that are so widely spread that totally affect the country if you shut it down. Don't shut it down. You just make sure that the profit never goes out of the country. You know, no money can leave the country because that's a new law. And the government gets to see every transaction a bank makes so that you can't get any money out of the country. You can't carry it out of the country. You can't, that's what we do. That's what we're doing. We're making sure that the law is covered 400,000 a year. And if you try to get any money out of the country, how are you going to do it? Going to carry it? Hundreds of thousands of dollars? You're going to carry it? I don't think so. You're going to try to find a way to have the banks do it or somebody do it, a plane carry it or something, and they're all inspected by the government. And you say things get, passed through the government all the time. Right now, they get away with it, but this is a new system. We're not doing trading with other countries like we did before. You have to go through the government to trade, and all they got to do is take a look at what's being moved out of the country, and if it's illegal, you're going to go to jail, and if it's illegal bad enough, you're going to go behind the fence. So what we have is the national court calling very highly trained bounty hunters, about 100 of them, and they'll be hired. And they'll be hired right now, and they'll be trained as soon as they're hired to say, to understand, and they're expert bounty hunters already, but basically we're after this person, don't hurt anybody else. That's why we're using highly trained bounty hunters. We want to get the person, we want to have the person brought to court, but don't hurt anybody else. Okay, you can understand that. So they bring them to court. If the hunters fail to bring them to court, so we have the unwanted national court. We have the highly trained bounty hunters, which we don't really want to have happen. We have the demand that those people that are sentenced and found guilty come to court, and they're found guilty of the new law. The second condition here is that if those addicted overchargers in any way move toward any kind of retribution, and you understand that we have, we were going to talk about the unwanted remedy here. The second unwanted remedy, we have the national court, we have highly trained bounty hunters, we have border lock for any money that's being passed. So that was the first thing. And the person that is charged in a national court and doesn't show up cannot take any money out of the country for any reason in his businesses. So all of a sudden, he can't or she can't do any business in the United States. Plain and simple. So let's go to the second condition, and the second condition is worse than the first, and the reason is because we're moving toward the addicted overcharger is going to move toward any kind of retribution, and they say any kind, and they will be stopped. That includes any foreign country or people causing a problem in this country. It includes any attempt to start a civil war or any major disruption in our country. Now, what did they say? They said, I don't care who it is. And you have a world border lock anyway. You have a world border, and nobody's allowed to pass the border with an intent to affect negatively any other country. And we have that's what our military is doing now. So we've already got that. And we're going to beef it up because we're going to make sure that nobody of the addicted overchargers in any way, any kind of retribution is not going to be accepted. And so now we're talking about any foreign country or any people causing a problem in our country. It includes any attempt at a civil war and a major disruption of our country. And it especially includes any kind of weapon of mass destruction being threatened or being used in this country. That attempt or actual attack will bring an immediate charge from the national court. What they say? They said if you try to use a weapon of mass destruction, which is atomic weapon or poison or anything like that, and you get into the country and you try it, or you actually have it happen, immediately the charge will be brought in the national court. As we said before, we have a list. We have a list of the people that are the most, have the highest amount of money that they've stolen as an addicted overcharger, and we start with the highest one, and it'll be the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the Morgans and the like, those kind of people. And what we're going to do is go down the list at a very high speed. Now, what did they say? Get it clear in your mind. We have a dirty bomb in New York City. So somebody has, dirty bomb, atomic radiation in New York City. Horrible, horrible thing. But boy, God, the overchargers are going to punish you for this law. Well, okay. What they said is that the people that we're dealing with are on the list, and the national court has that list, and they start at the top, or the worst people. If it doesn't happen to be the one that makes the most money, it might be the worst or the most likely. And we're talking about the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers or the Morgans or those kind of people. And they go down through the list, and what they do is they those people in charge of the corporations with a tremendous amount of extra money stolen from you will also be red tagged. So it isn't just the people that are rich personally. If they're in charge of a corporation that has all kinds of money, they're also put on the list, and they're put at a level of what we look at as the income or the level of the amount of money. Some of those corporations have more money than other countries. So the corporation will be put on the list. And if anybody who is in charge of the corporation decides that retribution is what they should do, they'll be dealt with from the court, national court. Right away will say, okay, we're going to go down through the list. What are they going to go down through the list? They're going to say, no, you understand, this is what they're going to do. They have, the understanding here is that the retribution is for the changes that the super rich do not want, the corporations do not want. We have to stop them immediately if there's any kind of retribution seen in this country. And that is any kind of retribution. So we go back and say, of all those people that are on the list, and the corporations, and there are people, they go right to the top and they start, okay, so what? What are they going to do with that list? Okay, that's the next thing. That's the thing that we really don't want to do. If an attempt or an attack is one that causes disruption, then the failure of those on the list to contact the court and surrender or turn themselves in to the nearest police station will cause a warrant to be issued, and if that doesn't produce results within the hours, a bounty will be issued. So they're going to issue a warrant for the top, well, let's say Rockefeller. We'll say Rockefeller. They're going to, and all these people are the warrants are issued immediately and as fast as they can. So let's just say Rockefeller. Rockefeller has a arrest warrant, and within hours, if they can't arrest him, then they put a bounty, an immediate bounty, placed on Rockefeller. And as they said, they start with the highest one, and because we don't know who it is. You understand? Who caused it? Might be the lowest guy on the totem pole, but every single person on that list is going to have a warrant issued and is going to be brought to court to find out. And if they don't show up, a bounty is going to be served on them, and that now you have these bounty hunters, these 100 bounty hunters, uh, until that person or that persons who caused the major crime, all of them, everybody that we found, have been found and brought to national court. The list will continue to be used, and the bounty will be continued to be handed down in a very rapid manner. You can see that there's no addicted overcharger who will want to be on that list.